So I'm just going to sanitize my secateurs here again. We've got a very young plant, and you can see this is actually a perfect replacement plant. We've got two nice leaders from it. This has just grown up strings this season, so this is of course a no-brainer, but worth showing, you know, instead of only replacement leaders, just what a raw beginning of two fresh leaders should look like. And you know what's great is we can actually show here the sort of shape you want to be achieving. Having your leaders come at an angle like this, and if you look at the plant directly behind you, that has that sort of shape. It has that V shape coming in towards where the leaders begin, and that's always important with a cutback like this to not be cutting back too high. So you see it's sort of one secateurs length from the top. That is a cane that is produced here that is going to be easy enough to tie down and get a good V shape. Whereas you can imagine if someone were to have cut this back here and the cane had come from here, it would have actually been much harder to bend down to create a leader without potentially snapping it. So that's why this phase is actually really important, and whoever cut this back last season, even though we have a little bit of dieback here, has done a great job. And of course it's another good reason why we always spray our secateurs and paint our wounds. We don't want to be spreading PSA with the secateurs, and we want to protect those wounds to, you know, try and stop the spread of the disease. Even if you don't see it in your orchard, it can be there, and you know it can start to spread. So you know, good tool hygiene I feel is always important, and I always try to maintain it, especially working on someone else's orchard. If that is what they want you to do, I feel like it's only a good idea to do it, because when you think about it, it'd be pretty sad to come back to a block where you've done all the leaders or you've done all the pruning and pretty much every plant in that row is dead. Well, or not dead, or at least stressed or dying, or there are a lot of replacement plants there. That can be a pretty sad feeling, because then all your work has been practically for nothing, because your plants are no longer there. And of course the grower's going to be sad, and is a grower going to rehire someone, or a manager going to rehire someone who killed all their plants? Probably not. Not if they suspect that all their plants being dead has something to do with you, because only your row has died. And I wish someone would invent a nicer tape gun, because I don't know, I've used lots of them. Sometimes they're great, but a lot of the time, man, constant jamming. Alright. Now, if you ever get a really tight, like there's a lot of tension and the tape isn't doing it, and you do 2 or 3 tapes and it's still not cutting it for you, it is a good idea to just have a little bit of the sort of flagging tape, the ribbon, with you, because that's a really good strong way to wrap around a few times and hold a leader that just does not want to be held. And you know, honestly, sometimes the ribbon feels faster, because the ribbon doesn't fucking block up on you like the tape gun does. So I've got a bit of a crossover here with this leader. You can see we've got this midway point here, and like I say, I want my leaders to be getting to that midway point, but because I've got this guy enroaching, whoever prunes this obviously just tied it down in such a way that it's sort of in the other plant's leader space. So I'm just going to carefully give it a little twist and bring it back around here, just so that I can tie my leader down without it being on top of the other plant. And I'm actually going to 2-bud that after the wire. Trying to make this as flat as possible, purely because if it goes up at any point within the plant will send more energy to that point that is highest, and that's called crown dominance. And that's why, you know, you see with the kiwi fruit, ideally your structure is all flat. And I'll show you right here as a great example. This leader here, unfortunately, was tied down in such a way, and if you take a look at this, you can quite clearly see this upper part, this dominant crown section. Look at the canes coming from it. Beautiful. But now look at this part that's lower. You see what I mean? And then this comes up higher again. So, I mean, usually this is what will happen. If you have a section of the plant that is too high up, you'll end up with one part of it being favored and a lot of it being lost. And ideally, with a plant like this, you wouldn't want this leader here in the first place. This structure, unfortunately, means that you can't really get much lower. If you take a look at this, you could say, okay, maybe we can tie in this as a new leader, and that might be the right idea. If we could tie this one in and twist it in such a way that we could keep the rest of this flat. And of course, now we're losing potentially these 2, 3 canes. So this is the kind of thing that it's an unfortunate result. You're either going to take the hit now and try and fix it so that in coming years you'll have a nice flat leader without dominance, without half the leader being lost, or you can just cross your fingers and hope that it's going to be okay in the future. And unfortunately, I've seen that myself, where this is just fingers crossed and you hope, and it just continually becomes worse over time, harder to manage. And if you leave it too late, then yes, it's going to be too much of a hit to fix it. But when your plants are young like this is really the best time. Better yet, doing it right the first time and not creating something like this. That's what we're trying to avoid.